What's up, y'all? Let me make sure that I can hear myself. Let me make sure that I can hear myself. Okay, I can hear myself. It's all good. Yeah. Let me do a screen share. I put in the description link to the channel. Put that in the description. And let me do a screen share because I want y'all to subscribe. Please subscribe to Truth Unedited. Um, Let me do a screen share of the channel that I'm talking about. And I've suggested his channel before. Yeah, Truth Unedited. Just type in Truth Unedited, but I've provided the link in the description. Please subscribe to his channel. I really appreciate what this brother's doing. Um, yeah, I definitely regularly listen to his uploads along with the Watchman Report, and there are others. Yeah. Um, yeah, and understand. I don't think there's any okay, and this brother, his channels are I definitely believe him to be inspired. His channel to be inspired by the law, by the word of the Most High Yah, and our Messiah Yahushua Hamashiach, who y'all may refer to today as Jesus Christ. Now, none of us are perfect. We're all human. And it's not about following a man. Always, I don't think there's anybody up in here, as I've said before, who I can say I'm like straight up 100% with everything, the information that they may bring or their opinion, but it's not about their opinion. It's not. It's about you. No matter what information that we present up in here to support our beliefs in the Bible, no matter what information, you don't just go, we are still human, we are still man, we are still man born in sin, capable of sinning, and also born in imperfection, so we are capable of making mistakes, and we are to still learn progressively. But like I said, as long as we are willing to learn and grow progressively, and as long as we are trying to go in the right direction, like, I know I'm not a saint, or if you will, up in here. I know I'm not perfect. I know I still have my flaws, still caught up in music. I know that I shouldn't be listening to, or even discussions on music and culture that perhaps I shouldn't be having. I know better. But that's the thing. I do know better, and I am trying to do better. So in trying to do better, I'm sharing this information with you because I believe that the same is with this brother. Yeah. And I very much appreciate the information that he's presenting. I just finished watching. Okay, I think I'm caught up, as you can see here. Now he has a series. If you're not familiar with his channel, he had a history of religion series that was also good. But I think you can even start with this more current series, being that yeah, he has a little more up to date, information. So you could even start with this here channel. I really recommend the series that he has as of now. He has a playlist of videos, like he has the We Are Not Black People docu-series. Some people, some of y'all might be taken aback by that, but really, really check it out. I really recommend. This is my duty to come up in here and share this information with you guys. But yeah, I wanted to address, so please check out his recent series. Start at part 1. You can start, and then I'm telling you, you'll find yourself binge watching, his videos. Just like I love the Whited Out series presented by Watchman Reports. I definitely recommend. Okay. But yeah, I just finished watching, and the reason I'm running up in here now, I was supposed to be working on something else, but the reason I just finished watching his part 9, Waking Up to the Truth, the history of the Apocrypha, should it be read and trusted. And it's interesting, yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Now, when I first learned about these quote unquote hidden books, I was okay. It was in the late 80s, and I had to stay with my brother. Now, like I told you guys, my family had left. Yeah. Okay. By this time, my family's from Chicago, but at this time, we happened to be living, my family, immediate family, like my mom and stuff. My immediate family had left Chicago, although the rest of my family stayed in the city. But at this time, we were living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. By this time, this was like the late 80s, 88, 89. And being that I was a teenager, having some problems with my mom and things in my family was falling apart. My family was definitely affected by the crack. Now, my mama didn't use crack or cocaine, but other family members did. Yeah, and this had an effect on my mother, which had an effect on me. So I began to run away from home. Also, we were dealing with poverty. It was just a lot that was going on. I was a teenager. So I was sent to live with my brother. Now, it was my brother who did not come with us. He didn't come with us when we first left Chicago in the mid 80s. Before going to Wisconsin, we were in the suburbs for a minute. And he never did. This was a brother that never did come with us. He decided to stay with his father's family, his father and his father's side in Chicago. He didn't want to come to find out, didn't want to come with us to the burbs or to Wisconsin. Yeah, he stayed with his father's family. Now, what was interesting, this was my mama's son who was said to be the bad boy. He was the son that everybody thought, uh, I'm thinking of the song The Vapors. He would grow up to be nothing but a hoodlum or either in jail or some would shoot him. I know I'm saying it wrong. But yeah, but sometime I guess I think he said it was the year 1986. Somehow he ran into someone in Chicago, and yeah, well, they were the ones who put him on to the fact that we, the so-called descendants of those who, quote unquote, blacks who were enslaved in the Americas, that we were the descendants of Yasharel, right? Yeah. Now, no, now, even though these were people in Chicago and they were not part, who he was studying with, they were not part of any, what we know, like, that's become popular, more popular than known today, like with the Hebrew Israelite camps, One West. No, they were not, in the garb, in the clothing or anything like that. Yes, as a teenager, I would stay with my brother. And I noticed my brother was like different. He changed his name and everything, where he already had a biblical first name, but I couldn't call him his nickname that we used to call, because my family ghetto, we all got nicknames that we go by. I couldn't call this brother. Yeah, like he didn't want to be called this, nor his name has changed. He was married now, and yeah, his first wife, he's married and everything, and yeah, and I thought staying with my auntie and uncle who were Jehovah's Witnesses when I was a child, and the reason I was placed with them because my mom going through what she was going through, being homeless and as a widow and everything, and she just felt it was best with me as a child. But now I was older, a teenager, running away from home. She sent me what to do with this child. So if you live with my brother, I guess no, I wasn't a dysfunctional teen, but I went through my little phase of rebelling with my mom and all of that. And yeah, so I was sitting to live with my brother, and I thought it was strict with my auntie and uncle who was Jehovah's Witnesses. But my brother, it was like I couldn't use the phone. One of my older brothers, yeah, he had totally changed. I mean, he was never really a bad, like even my mama said, despite how everybody else saw him as bad or whatever, what he did get a lot of whoopings and stuff. But my mama said one thing she noticed about him is that he always would have his Bible. Like he was always, even though my mama didn't even really go to church. We never really went to church. It was maybe Easter Sunday so that I could show off my Easter dress. My mama believed in the Bible and the scriptures, but she didn't really, she was, I believe, very much influenced by Black nationalists and all that. She didn't really go to church, So we didn't, yeah, but my brother, he's like, but one thing she said about my brother, that particular brother, I had 4 brothers and one sister that I grew up with. Yeah, although, some of my siblings are gone now. But yeah, that particular brother, he was supposed to be the bad son, or the one Like, that's but I still love my brother, and I always saw, the good in him. I always saw that. He ain't like really hurt nobody or nothing like that, but I always saw the good in him. But he was the one that people would have thought would have been turned out to just end up in jail and dead or whatever. But yeah, he was like totally trying. And so this was like late 80s. And I remember when I was staying with him, and like every Friday, was it, we would go and have Bible study with this man on North Side Chicago, Emmett, this older man. Now, they didn't refer to themselves as Hebrew Israelites, but they acknowledged that we were Israelites, right? But Hebrew that was like redundant. They weren't dressed in purple and gold, just dressed, like regular people. But I did notice that the women, they all, like my brother's wife at the time, they had to wear their hair covered, and the women were like not wearing pants, like wearing just, dressed very kind of Mormonish like or something, So I remember when I was sitting and studying with them, I was like, what's y'all religion? And I remember they like, we not no religion. And I was like, okay. But what was now, I was a person always fascinated with learning. And even when I went to the Kingdom Hall, my auntie and uncle as a child, I was a young kid, like really fascinated by the Watchtower publications, all the different books, You Can Live in Paradise. Because I was always a reader. I always like learning, and I got that actually from my mom. Even if my mom didn't go to church, she had books. One of my childhood gifts was the Charlie Brown encyclopedia set, which my niece Tasha just got. So I was always fascinated. I was a young kid, even before before the media was really talking about AIDS. I was noticing the Watchtower publication. They had an Awake magazine. This was like 1983. That they had on AIDS. And I was a young child sitting and reading the entire article about this, this new disease, AIDS, and nobody was really talking about it at that time in 83. But that was one thing that I did appreciate about, with the Jehovah's, you did do a lot of reading, and it was all these meetings, book study, but however, are you blocked? I don't know. I didn't block you. If you were blocked, I didn't block you. Spirit of Justice, I don't recall blocking you. I see your post. How you doing, by the way? But yeah, okay. But the thing is, okay, so now the Watchtower, they had these publications, but these were things that were created in recent years by the Watchtower. Okay. And that was one thing I noticed with the Jehovah's, they did have a lot of information. Like years later, them coming out with the reasoning from the scriptures book. It was things that they knew about the holidays, and you know what I'm saying, that it just seemed like that other people didn't know, right? So I really thought that was the way to get, like they got the information other people don't know. But I got to think about that now. When I think about it, even though the Jehovah's Witnesses, although they don't follow the books, the books of the Apocrypha, that's not included in their translation of the New International, whatever, I forgot the name of their translation of. Somehow, this is something that I noticed. They know the details about Nimrod, who was this ruler after the time of Noah. Nimrod, grandson of Cush. Yeah, or grandson of Ham. Somehow they knew certain details about Nimrod that you don't find in the biblical canon that we are more familiar with, the 66 books. You don't find this detailed information about him being behind the Tower of Babel. So you got to question, where did they get that information from, right? No, you doing damage control. Spirit of Justice, I got my eye. Yeah, I got my eye, and I'm not talking to all seeing eye. I got my eye on you with the Masonic symbolism. Of course, you're going to say, of course, it's expected. You represent the Masonic order. Of course, you're going to tell me that he spreads a lot of misinformation. I know you're going to say that. Of course, you looking out. I know what's up. How you doing, Royale? Yeah, I know you got your eye on me. I know you got your eye on me too. You ain't got, I know. But I'm not worried. But you see, I ain't worried. I'm not worried. Because as long as I have the Most High Yahuwah, I'm not worried about that. You see that? So, like I said, I ain't block you. I ain't blocking. I'm not stupid. How you doing, Royale? But yeah. But thanks for letting me know. Now I know. Hallelujah. I know now. Thank you for letting me know you got your eye on me too. I'm not dumb. You think I ain't stupid. But yeah. What was I saying? I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So, but I will say this, okay, like when I was with my brother and stuff, when I was a teenager, yeah. Okay, so, we would, like on Fridays, was it? I don't think it was on the Sabbath, but yeah, Friday before the Sabbath, we'd have Bible, and I will say that they read directly from the Bible. But but that was my first time learning anything about these other books, right? And I noticed they had a lot of books, but they were like big and chunky. These other books, like the Apocrypha, and I remember questions yeah, and I was wondering where was it, because you gotta understand we didn't. Well, as far as we know, we didn't have the internet in the late. This was like 1989. We didn't have, I was a teenager still, and I was, I'm like, where did they get these? Where did this come from? But these were mostly. This was like north side of Chicago. We just met an apartment, not in a church or anything like that. And the main man that was holding the study, even though he passed away, an older man named Emmett. And I ain't know nothing about no Hebrew Israelite camps or IUIC, none of that stuff. Okay. They didn't have they weren't following the 12 tribes chart. They didn't teach that Esau was like just the white man is Esau in general. That's not what, even though, yeah, but they believed it to be Esau. They felt, they taught that the Ish people of today are descendants of Esau. They did teach that. But they didn't teach like Esau was the white man. But anyways. Now, I will say that they were still saying, Jesus, and yeah. But it was interesting that why is it that it was through them that I first learned about these books, the Apocrypha. So I can't say that right away. I cannot say that I took it as valid or something I should write, I can't even say that I totally, like even with my brother, that I totally was convinced that, that we were the descendants of Yasharel. But I will say that they were showing me, it was things that I was being shown, and they was just using the King James Version Bible for the most part, along with the Apocrypha. But even the stuff they were showing me in the King James Version, they were showing me scriptures like, man, I didn't notice this before, and I thought I noticed it all with the Jehovah's Witnesses because they seem very thorough. We turn a lot to the scriptures. I would rememorize. That's what I had respected about studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, that they did. When you would be in the Kingdom Hall, you would have a lot of reading and studying and this and that, and still there were things shown to me that I was like, oh wow, I didn't see that. And I'm gonna tell you, I could Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth. That's because that's how I had to memorize stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I was also fascinated with Bible stories. I used to love the publications the Jehovah's Witnesses with the Watchtower organization put together. But they were showing me stuff, the reading directly from the Bible, scripture, and I'm thinking that and I was like, wow, but then also they had these other books. And but I can't say that I gravitated toward those. I wasn't sure. And it, like I said, it left me kind of conflicted because when I got back like with my auntie and uncle who really, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, I learned most of what I learned on the Bible from my auntie and uncle who were Jehovah's Witnesses and going to the Kingdom Hall. So of course, as when I was younger, as a teenager and young adult, I questioned my auntie. I came to my auntie with everything that I had learned, well, not everything, but I just, aren't we still, because I learned with my brother and, these now Israelites, but they didn't call themselves Hebrew Israelite, any religion. I learned that we weren't supposed to eat pork and stuff. And I remember presenting that to my auntie, but she would show me scripture in the New Testament And she didn't really. Now my auntie, she was one of those we are the world colorblind. She wasn't like that's. Like I said, I had even though my mama didn't go to church, it was my mama who instilled the pro-blackness in me, right? But now I'm living with my mama's sister and her husband and their children. And even though my mama's sister and the rest of her family, they were more on the we are the world colorblind tip. But I did learn more about the Bible from them, right? I learned about Black history and consciousness from my mama, but more on the Bible from my auntie and uncle. Although they weren't with all that, pro-blackness and all of that, right? So it did kind of leave me conflicted because then now I'm with my brother and I'm shown on where it all comes together. Not saying that he was on a pro-black, I'm just saying. And I showed my auntie, and what she showed me, she took me, and I also told her the things that I learned with my brother. And so what she did, she would show me scriptures that was talking about pride. So my auntie and like my uncle, they would warn me about that pride. And when I'm talking about pride, they would talk, Black pride. That's all that they saw it as. What I was learning, studying with my brother. They saw it as just another form of Black pride, even though they were not like these. And actually, it was a white guy that would be studying with him. A white Gentile. Yeah, it was mostly Black people, just north side of Chicago in an apartment. And it was one white guy. There was a biracial female, Elizabeth. It was a white guy. Now, he didn't claim to be Yasharel, but he was studying with. So it wasn't like what we see with this shouting on the streets of white people. No, it wasn't anything like that. In fact, my brother does not want to be confused with these people of these Hebrew Israelite camps. He's not with that at all. And so, but the thing is, can you understand the conflict? Because my auntie, she took me to the scriptures and she showed me, and that's what she would warn me about with the pride. So here I got on one end what I learned from my mom, the consciousness as a Black quote unquote Black person. Then I go shift and live with my auntie and uncle, where I learn a little more about the Bible, and going to the Kingdom Hall with them, and they kind of like my uncle. He would listen to easy rock stations. They were kind of more about integration and we are the world and all that. And you know what I'm saying? They were more colorblind. But I did learn about the scripture something. But then now I go live as a teenager with my brother. So you can understand the conflict. But so I really took to what I kind of gravitated more to my auntie and uncle. But at the same time, especially seeing what was happening with my family, seeing what's going on in the world, racial tensions are increasing, in the 80s and late 80s and 90s. What I was going through being in the girls' home. So I was, hold on, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I was kind of conflicted. Yeah, I'm sorry, my husband. So it left me in kind of a conflict. Because I was listening to what my auntie was telling me and my uncle. And my uncle was the type, I'm telling you, if he wasn't Jehovah's Witness, and if he was voting, he would have been a straight up Black Republican, conservative. He always got at me for always feeling like I got to be for the underdog. They weren't coons now. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. And he would warn me about like being like my mom, watching the news all the time. And you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it left me because I was like, even though I still listen to my uncle and auntie, but I was like, man, it's something with our people. Because my auntie and uncle and their family, they weren't going through what my immediate family. I definitely felt, like we were cursed. They had a life that was a little more comfortable with their two daughters. And yet with my family, we were in the midst of and also what we had experienced moving to the suburbs. I experienced the racism. I experienced the rejection, me having my 4 brothers. So, I knew that there was something, also me being in the group home and everything and dealing with the racist white staff that I had to deal with and the things that I knew what was going on. and just witnessing what was going on in the world. So I was like, you can't tell me that something with our people. There's just something more. But but it was the back. It was like really. But anyways. Hey, Roy, I thank you for the appreciation. I try. At least as real as it gonna get in social media world. But I knew that there was something more. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna tell you but I still tried to study with Joe Winners, and I just didn't understand why didn't I get baptized? Why? Almost like there was something more meant for me to know or do, or I tried to do the right thing. I got baptized with this church at 18. I got saved with this. I got with the church. I was like, I ain't know what direction. Got saved with this church at around the age of so-called saved at 16, baptized at 18. But shortly, really bad things happened that very same year I got baptized. I had some horrible things that happened to me. Yet I just could not ever curse the Most High. And then, of course, me losing family members one after another with my mama's death and the way she, being attacked in her home as she coming up from a stroke. It was like from my mama's death, 2003, my brothers in 2004, my sister a couple of years after that. And in between that, my uncle, that particular uncle I lived with, died just days before my brother died. My grandmama, my last grandparent, my auntie, cousins of mine. So I was like, man, what? You kidding me? You talking about Big Daddy Kane? You said hair hats or? Oh my goodness. Oh, Kanye. Well, I know what you mean. Oh, with the hats. Wow. I'm gonna see what you're talking about. But yeah, but I knew that. I've come to and it wasn't until what was it, 2013? I started on my Ancient Egypt series, and proving that the Egyptians, and you gotta understand, when my sister passed away, 2000, around in 2007, right before me coming to YouTube, that really caused me, when she was found dead of an OD, that really caused me to question God. I was like, this is wrong. Like, and then at that very same time, and then I end up going back to college and they're teaching, I got to take a course in anthropology. What does that have to do with merchandising management? But I still had to take, which was basically teaching evolution. And at the same time, I had this class in philosophy where I got to hear all of this rhetoric from philosophers, rhetoric and philosophies that go against the scriptures. And I remember just the way the teacher was towards me. Anytime I tried to say something, or I could tell there was intolerance. So it was like, my first time me questioning my faith, but I still couldn't. But I'm gonna tell you, when I did my Ancient Egypt series and information started, and just proving the Egyptians were black, so you could say that was on a Black Pride tip, but information was coming to me. I tell y'all this over and over that I was not even seeking. Information was coming to me. Now I went on, did a video debunking evolution. That was very depressing working on that video because I had learned the details. I learned about Otabanga and the details of the Columbine shooting. I was so depressed doing that initial years ago, like in 2010. It was like, and I remember my daughter was pleased with it. She was pleased with it. She felt at that time that was the best video I had done. But it was real depressing working up, because what I had learned and things I learned about who humans zoos, and when I really, really learned the origin and learned about eugenics and all of that stuff in relation to evolution, it was so depressing working on those videos. Yeah. But yeah, anyways. Yeah, I'm just telling you, it was around the time it was information coming to me. I was not seeking. I was seeking information, gathering information, downloading books, this and that. I was printing out things because I put a lot of research into that, the Ancient Egypt series. I'm gonna re-upload it again, and I don't expect it or take it off. Well, I need to re-upload. I could take them off private. The ones that, yeah, and I got, wow, definitely like 50,000 views. It was shared at the Egypt search, but I couldn't just take it off private because I've done certain updates since. You know what I'm saying? And of course, now I don't expect it to get the same amount of views, but yeah, but what I'm saying, that's when I was like, it was information coming to me that I wasn't even necessarily seeking in my research on ancient Egypt for the video. And I was like, man, maybe what my brother was saying was right. But now in more recent years, I'm also realizing that my auntie was right as well in what she was telling me on the pride. That's the newer revelation that I'm having. That I'm realizing that, I'm also seeing where my mother I'm so glad that I learned what I learned from my mother, but I'm also seeing where my auntie and uncle were right on certain things. Don't think that I'm hopped on the coon train or anything like that. And then just right around the time that I'm thinking about that, because I had seen this 1968 documentary on, black on black. Yeah, that I watched up in here on YouTube. And also, checking, I was thinking about with the funk music, me and my attachment to funk music and what it's about, and me getting off topic to address Eminem and things like that. And I realized where the pride that I have is conflicting with my relationship with the Most High. Yeah. And I realized that pride I got. So right around that time when I began to question, it does seem like really since we start embracing being black and proud, it does seem like, yeah, because I don't know. And I'm not saying it's not about not appreciating your melanin. And no, that's not at all what I'm saying. And we say, well, we were, before we were black, we were Negro, that still meant black. But the thing is, we had no choice. That was totally law. We embraced, black is something we went on and embraced, even though you have to understand when we were referred to as black, and it was such a blanket term, it was more esoteric than you realize. It was like putting a curse on us. And in this case, we embraced it. It wasn't just about what was forced on us or like what was just by law. Do you understand what I'm saying? We began embrace black. Also, what we saw as black culture, what we saw, and from that, hip hop came from that. You understand, which I'm very much attached to. But I'm realizing, I'm gonna talk about this a little more detail later because I am. Yeah, so right around the time I'm considering this, man, Truth Unedited comes out with this series. I'm like, oh, this is messing with me. We are not black people. And I'm realizing if we want these curses, because to end, we're going to have to, it's not even just about changing your name. Because I now understand why my brother changed his name even. And he was totally different totally different person. Now this very same brother who we would have thought would have been dead, he is the one who's able to bring together the family. And then he also helped in reaching out to my other brother, my oldest brother. So him, it was a good thing that he stayed in Chicago, I guess. And didn't just, so I found out the answer is not just fleeing to the suburbs, fleeing to the city, going up north, going back down south, that ain't the answer. Curse the city, curse the field. My brother was able in the sense that, in helping to break the curses. And that's what we got to realize. How can we be a light to the Gentiles or a light to if we are calling ourselves black people? Do you understand? I'm not talking about no light skin versus dark skin. That's not what I'm talking about. It's something that I'm realizing. See, the end of this, Esau is the end of this world. And it's not going to, but the curses will be brought when we're told when we remember who we are, and not just remember who we are, because our people, like Watchman Reports and them, say we knew who we were. Our people knew who they were. They knew they were Judah. They knew they were Yasharel when they were sinning and doing all the horrible stuff they were doing. Because you got these people up in here, like some of these people in representing these camps, etc. It's all about we the Israel, we the, you know, like Kanye West. I'm a descendant of Judah. Okay, and one minute he doing gospel, next he on the stage with Marilyn Manson. And you got your woman naked on the red carpet. That's even worse if you supposedly know who you are or know that you are supposed to be representing the Most High Yahuwah, and you presenting, you know, that's even worse. It would have been better if you stayed blind or stayed not knowing. And that's what I also realized with myself. That's why I realized when I had initially lost my channel, when I knew I was supposed to be, I didn't just take that as, I knew that it wasn't just about Tommy Sotomayor, Soto Nation, because my computer had also crashed. I really did feel it was judgment from the Most High Yah, because I had not been using, I was going in a certain direction. And I'm going to tell you, each time I kept trying to upload and respond to that guy, and it was like things kept going wrong, as if the Most High was trying to stop me. Enough. You address this enough. And I'm still going through that. I'm still, you know, going through that conflict. And I was giving this channel back, and I still have not been utilizing it as I know I should be. So I'm just saying, y'all, check out this series. Definitely check out this series. Yeah. And yeah, from what I had read, like, it's very obvious why there are certain books that are kept out. It's very, very obvious. Like, when you think of what the book of Maccabees and what the scripture says on how they, you know, with the restoration, if you will, the repainting, details on Grecians, the details, like in the, even with the book of Yasher. Now that was one that I was, you know, it gives you a little more information, for instance, on Esau, the relation, you know, Edom. There, it makes sense, because you know they were gonna keep out. I had learned that a minute ago. They were gonna not include Revelation as part of the biblical canon that we know of today. And I didn't even know with Hebrews and James, the book of Hebrews and James, that there were definitely certain books. And also use your own discernment, research into it. Don't just watch these videos or listen to just what I have to say or Truth Unedited. Do the research yourself. Yeah. Because it's me just watching this, part 9, Waking Up to the Truth, the history of the Apocrypha. Should it be read and trusted? I'm telling you, when you read, I'm telling you, like he said, take the time. Now, the one I listened to the book of Enoch now. I listened to that actually online, like in a video. However, I can't say, and I read some of the book of Jasher, a great deal. However, the book of Jubilees, I never really looked into. But yeah, and this information that's all being revealed now, I mean, take advantage of it, guys. And there are people who are so I definitely suggest you please check out his channel. I mean, and you can start with this series here, Waking Up to the Truth. I definitely believe that he is ordained. Oh, these were the images I was looking for. The Phoenician, the Hittite. Yeah, these were, I got it. I know I got it saved. And that's the thing too. My computer crashed. I lost a lot of information. Almost like telling me, well, you know what? You ain't using this when you supposed to be talking about this, this, and that, and you're not. Instead, you want to talk about what's going to be taken away from you. Yeah. So I do suggest you check this out. Please watch this series, my people. Please check it out. And look, and in consideration of what Spirit of Justice is claiming about the misinformation, look, any of us up in here can give you misinformation. Make sure that you pray, be led by the Ruach. Okay, pray to the Most High Yah in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, in the name of the Messiah. Pray to be led by the Spirit, and use holy discernment, use your Yah-given discernment, and do research yourself. So if you feel that there's misinformation, well, I can just go by what you're saying, that the person got information, but allow people to find out for themselves. You're not saying exactly what that misinformation is. Now, are you? So we supposed to just take your word? I say, check it out. Okay? But do your own research. Don't just go by what I say, what he say. Do your own research. Back it up. Do your own research, but pray. So that's all I got to say to y'all. I will check, but like I said, I may end up going more into this. Like, how will I do this? We're so used to talking in black and white. But I am coming to a point where I think, because I'm telling you, if we are to break the curse, what it says, we have to not only remember who we are, but we got to go back to we have to repent, and go back to keeping the covenant, and the holy days, and the Sabbath. There's more to it. But you got to think about it. When we continue to call ourselves black people, they didn't decide to just group us all and call us black, regardless of what our lineage is. It wasn't just about, I know you think it's just about our melanin. No, they knew. You got to understand, these people who are, like it says, Ephesians 6:12, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. They understand these puppets who have spiritual or demonic puppet masters. They know, they understand occultism, and they understand, they have an esoteric understanding, if you will. They knew in calling a certain group of people white and a certain group of people black, it was not just about our melanin. Okay, melanin is beautiful, but even so, we're not supposed to be worshiping ourselves, worshiping creation over the creator. We can admire it, we can appreciate it. Like a bird is a beautiful creation of the Most High Yah, but we ain't supposed to be worshiping no bird. Right? Same with our skin, because some of us have become where we're worshiping our blackness, worshiping our skin, our hair. We're not just appreciating it and promoting it, but we're worshiping it. That's and pride before the fall. And I'm still in that conflict, but I'm coming to an understanding. I'm coming to more of an understanding. But so, but that's the thing. If we won't, and I realize even with my family, because I realized there were obviously demons in my family. I will say this. My grandma was your witness, auntie. They used to warn my mama about all the horror movies and stuff that we used to watch. We used to love Halloween. We were watching stuff like The Omen and all that kind of stuff, and not realizing that we were inviting demons in. It wasn't just the drugs. Now that I think about it, it wasn't just the drugs. It wasn't just the poverty. We were able to laugh and make it through that. Well, the poverty. Yeah, the drugs had more of an effect. But I'm going to tell you, the only people that I know who were able to kick the crack cocaine habit in my real life, the only people I know, these were people who claimed they were saved. And that's the truth. That is the truth. No rehabilitation or nothing. The only people I know that was able. Now, praise Yah, I never fell into that. But the only people I know, and I knew people, I witnessed people I had to throw out my house who were freebasing back in the 90s. Family members. So I know all about that. The only people I knew who were able to really shake that monkey, these were people who claimed that they were saved. It was a spiritual thing. Because I'm telling you, a lot of these issues we have, even if you suffer deep depression, a lot of these are demons. I'm telling you. And I realized that my family, even with some of the music we listened to, we invited demons in. It's interesting. My brother, who was supposed to be the golden boy, the good son, the one that everybody had high hopes for, he ended up being, because he was all into that David Bowie and a lot of that rock music, which opened up for drugs. And so it's interesting the way things turned out in my family. I'm just telling you that right now. So, so y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Please check out the series I ask of you. And yeah, the Carlton brother, sad to say. Sad to say. And we still worried about him. So, and it hurts. Because it's like even though he's still, even though he's still alive, it still hurts because it's like he is gone. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and his brother took time, played with me, and he was a really good boy, really good kid, really good son. He was a genius, A student, and it hurts. So, but I still keep praying for him. I still keep praying for a miracle. That I won't say anything. So I'm just telling y'all right now. But and it ain't over. It ain't over. So it would be great if he could one day give testimony. That would be awesome. He was the one that got me the Barbie doll. He was the one that took time. My other brothers doing their thing. He took time, stayed home, played with me. Even though he could have been living his teenage life, enjoying his teenage life, but when my mama had to work, he would definitely spend time with me, give me a bath, put me to bed, and all of that. So it hurts a lot. I really love that brother. So I'm just saying, drugs stink. Drugs suck out loud. But I realize that certain things are demons. So, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My condolences. Yeah. Yeah, we found it. My condolences. I'm so sorry. My condolences. May she rest in peace. But no, it's not over though. Don't think it's over. I have open resurrection. All right. She's just at rest right now. She's just resting right now. She's away from all this crazy madness. Look how this world is going. You know what I'm saying? So just see it like that, my dear. Yeah. The thing is, we've been writing him and he has not contacted us. So it's like we're kind of worried. Is he being kept away from us? So we're kind of worried. So if we have to take a long drive, that's what we got to do. The facility that they're claiming that he's in. So not to be telling all my family business, but yeah, it's just odd that he's absolutely, there's no contact, and we keep calling and we're being told this and that, but it's like, what the hell is going on? So I will get back with y'all later. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Much peace and much love, my family.